There was one group that I forgot. I apologize. Conway parents, Conway PTO. I apologize. Sorry, there are a lot of parents here. Come on, parents, quickly, quickly. Kids, you can go up with your parents. You can go up.
Conway parents?
Yeah.
Can we go?
Yeah.
PTO or all Conway parents?
All Conway parents. Kids, you can join them. Go sit up front. Go sit up front. Go sit up front with your kids. You guys could go up front. Go down front.
No, I'm good.
Photographer.
They asked, right? I answered.
Ready? You squeeze in. All right. Yep. Go over just, there you go. All right.
Better at this than me.
Got
One
it?
more.
Turn that way.
Yep.
Got it?
T-O-J-J. Okay, good.
Thank you all.
And her family. Can we get her family in the picture too?
Are they here?
She's got some here. Yeah.
Oh. I'm told that you have family members here. Family members? Your family came and surprised us. Ah. Let's give Catherine another round of applause.
Should I let him go now? Now, we really appreciate that the whole Conway community is here, and there is a presentation later in the meeting about the amazing things happening at Conway School, but if it is time for you to go and you're ready to leave the high school multipurpose room, now would be the time.
Or eat a macaroni.
Our feelings won't be hurt.
Right. The elementary
Either
folks
stay
are
and
always so
listen or
quiet.
eat a macaroni.
That's
I think
right.
I would go eat.
Yeah, if the choice is meeting or macaron. What a lovely crowd. Okay. Oh. Okay, thank you so much to everyone who stayed. We do not feel any sort of way about the people who left, I promise. I just have a few remarks tonight. One, I want to acknowledge Women's History Month. We have a lot of amazing women among our ranks. So thank you to all of the women who work for our district and are here for our students and staff. A few more things. Just to remind you that the election is coming up on April 7th, the school board election. We have 4 candidates running: Keisha Lee, Pablo Flynn, Peter Garapi, and Tim Rebele. The Meet the Candidate night, is March 30th. So it's going to be run by the League of Women Voters. So please come out and hear what the candidates have to say so you can be an informed voter on April 7th. Prior to that night, there will be a ribbon cutting at the 5th grade center on March 24th to debut the new baseball fields and tennis courts and the other work that was done on that campus. So that'll be a really lovely evening, and we'll kick off the boys' home baseball season. And I think that's it. Dr. Whipke?
I'm going to go just a tad bit off script. Dr. Devitt, I didn't hear us mention this, but a couple of years ago, this Board of Education looked at us and said, hey, we're ready to support innovative ideas within our buildings so that all kids can grow. And we actually went to Dr. Devitt and his team, and Layla worked with the team, and Catherine Ward actually took on an extra class after school hours and worked with some kiddos that needed a little bit of a boost. And I think we had pretty amazing results that way too, right? The power of a teacher in a classroom, right? So that was a good call by you, Dr. Devitt, and fortunately we had Catherine on our side on that front as well. I do want to make a few remarks and give a kind of a seasonal update, right? Fitting with the weather, right? We'll call it a seasonal update. So just like that, we've arrived to the month of March. This is always a high energy time of the year as I look at our teachers there, right? High energy time. And we wrap up our third quarter, and we are getting busy, and so it's highly impressive that we have so many Conway staff that did decide to stay because you have conferences this week as well. And so we're ready to meet our parents. It's always great to have our parents in our buildings, the engaging, meaningful conversations with our teachers about their children's growth and their success. While March is filled with activity, the most anticipated event is undoubtedly spring break. Yes, I knew you guys knew that. It's spring break, and as a reminder to our community, there is no school this Friday, March 13th, as it is Conference Compensation Day for staff, and then spring break will officially follow from March 16th through the 20th, and we are wishing everybody, including our wonderful staff here, a safe and restful break. I do have a couple more updates, and we're speaking of the time of the year, and it is legislative time of the year as well. I want to extend a sincere thank you to our Board of Education and to the many community members that attended our legislative forum on March 2nd. All of our board was there, and we had, I think, around 55 community members there as well. Your engagement and advocacy are vital to not only our success, but to public school success. During that session, we focused on 3 primary buckets of legislation currently moving through Jefferson City that could have significant impacts in our district's funding. The 3 buckets were a state budget and vouchers, property tax reform, and open enrollment. Of particular concern is House Bill 2780, which recently passed the House and is now moving to the Senate. Over the years, we have worked diligently as a school district, as a Board of Education, to manage our tax rate effectively. However, this bill proposes dropping the minimum levy from $2.75 to $2.20. Should this move forward through the Senate, it has the potential to decrease our funding in Ladue by upwards of $6 million annually. When coupled with the impact of the senior tax freeze, we are looking at a projected revenue loss of nearly $8 million. We will continue to monitor this closely and advocate for the fiscal health of our school. And one way to do that is through Advocacy Day, which happens to be tomorrow. We have several of our board members going up to Jefferson City tomorrow for MSBA Advocacy Day, and I believe we have our driver that's going, and Dr. Jeff Macy, with several members of our board. So I am wishing you guys the best of luck on the Advocacy Day tomorrow. Yeah. And one more little celebratory note to get us back on a positive thread. I'm thrilled to share that our Tiny Homes project was recently highlighted in Sophisticated Living magazine. This program is a shining example of the innovation here in Ladue. I want to recognize our instructor, Bill Edwards, who does a masterful job of leading our students, and express our deep gratitude to the Ladue Education Foundation for their unwavering support in making this project a reality. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Whipke. Are there any board committee or school liaison reports?
I just have a quick one. I just wanted to point out to Dr. Wallace and his team this past weekend concluded the Olivet League for basketball in the winter, and it was, normally we would play the same teams multiple times, and this time we didn't even make it through the whole group at least for first grade. And so I think it's just really a testament to how it's been nurtured and promoted and grown. The people with the Olivet Parks and Rec District have done a wonderful job. And it really is, it's wonderful to drive through the district on a Saturday morning and you see Reed's parking lot is full, Conway's is full, Old Bonham's is, and it's all because of these, of the participation, which not only includes our students, but also those from other area schools, from U City, community. And so it really is, it's wonderful to see, even for those who are part of the geographic area, who get to participate and benefit from what was created within our district. So thank you.
I also had the opportunity I am the liaison for the Ladue Early Childhood Center, and on Saturday they celebrated Passport Day. And it was so good to see our littlest learner, our smallest learners, sharing their cultures with one another and their families. And it was just an amazing time, and the food was delicious. So it was great, great day.
Okay. All right. I hope everybody has had a chance to review the consent agenda. If there are no questions, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Thank you, Pablo.
Second.
Thank you, Peter. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. And we will move on to our action items. Dr. Crabtree?
Good evening. Our first action item is the 27-28 calendar. As mentioned at our last board meeting, this calendar has 172 student contact days and 188 teacher contract days. The calendar is relatively the same because of the late start date. We do not begin school until August 23rd. We will end before Memorial Day. And then we are deciding to move fall break to November 1st so that students don't have to go to school the day in between Halloween and Professional Development Day. Thank you. Any good idea in the calendar is thanks to Catherine Ward, by the way. She is our calendar guru. And we will also be moving spring break back 1 week to March 20th so that we have a more balanced quarters 3 and 4. Any questions on the calendar?
All right, any questions? Okay, is there a motion to approve the 27-28 calendar as presented? So moved. Thank you, Keisha.
Second.
Thank you, Pablo. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you.
Great.
And policy updates.
The policy updates, just as a reminder, policy IIA is around instructional materials. It is just expanding the language to include technology instructional materials as well as print and books. I recommend we adopt this policy as presented by MSBA. Are you voting one policy at a time or at the very end?
We can do them all together.
Okay. The second one is policy IIAC about instructional media centers. So again, this policy already aligns with our practices for book selection. So I recommend that we adopt this policy as presented by MSBA. And then the last one is removal of regulation IIAC. This is being replaced with an administrative procedure that already aligns with our current practice. And so I recommend that we rescind this regulation as presented by MSBA.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the 2025 policy updates as presented?
So moved.
Thank you, Keisha. Second. Thank you, Amy. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. The Conway Elementary School presentation. up next. Did we get to you sooner than you thought? That doesn't usually happen, so.
All right, good evening. So first, we are just so grateful to be here with you all on our Board Appreciation Month. We appreciate all that you do and for taking the time to just hear our story. We love the opportunity to share what we're doing here, and although Dr. Hatfield and I are the ones who get to share that story, we feel that privilege. We recognize that we represent the collective, and it's the collective effort of so many people, from our parents to our staff to our community, that makes what we're going to present with you possible. I just want to say a quick thank you to all of our teachers here, including some SSD staff and our SSD director, and 2 parents who are still here. Thank you guys for being here to show your support.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us. We are thrilled, as Dr. Devitt said, to give up a night when our teachers have 2 very long nights ahead of them. So I want to say thank you to the board, especially on School Board Appreciation Month. We can't thank you guys enough for all of your tireless effort all year round to help strengthen our school community. You guys make such an impact, and we are kind of so lucky to be in this wonderful district. Well, let's dive into what we're here for. We're thrilled to share with you kind of our school improvement plan. And one thing we want to get into is, how did we arrive at these goals? And when Dr. Devitt and I come together over the summer, we thought about, let's take a look at a lot of data points that's going to help shape what those goals are going to be. One of the primary pieces of data we use is our panorama results from our staff, from our students, and our community. And we help use that information to help shape and guide the direction we're going to head. Some of the work from Dr. Crabtree with regards to the high reliability schools. That information has been something that's been critical for us, not just last year, but in the years to come. You'll see some other data points up there, but one of the most important ones is we wanted to make sure that our school goals were aligned with our district priorities.
And this has been a real difference maker for us. I think if we've been having success, which I think will show that we have, it's largely attributed to this idea, this graphic that's represented here, that was actually created by Liz Lohman, our CSA president, when we presented to the DPDC. So this represents just the really healthy flow of how our goals are created and how aligned they are with the district and the board. So we take the goals that are given to us from the retreat that you all have over the summer. We meet as a building leadership team and then as a school to create our goals. We then share those with our staff who create their goals that are in alignment with that. And then we even sit down with our Conway School Association, our parent-teacher organization, and they create goals that are aligned to our goals. And what that does is it makes it move beyond just a fundraising group that supports us, but it becomes a part of our strategic initiative in order to align and actually accomplish what we're setting out to accomplish. So our CSA is so important to this work that we're going to be sharing with you all. So we have 3 building goals. So the first that I want to really highlight is to increase the sense of belonging and to leverage that for collaboration. And this is a 2-part goal, really, and the reason why it's 2 parts is represented in the graphic on the right, those 3 spheres of influence. And so in order for students to be successful, you need to have those 3 spheres working in partnership: the school, the family, and the community. And when you do, and when you draw them together, you have success for the child, for our student. And the first precursor for that, the reason why we included belonging as a part of that, is because unless the school members, the family members, and your community feel like they belong within those spheres, moving them closer together doesn't do anything. So we start by creating a sense of belonging, and then we leverage that to have a sense of collaboration within our buildings. Goal number 2 is to increase student engagement. That's been something that we've been focused on as a district and as a school for 2 years now. And our goal number 3 is to develop an instructional framework, a common playbook of best instructional practices to align us.
So let's take a deeper dive really into that very first goal of belonging and collaboration. And again, that sense of belonging is something that we were very intentional with last year, but it's not just a one-year, one-and-done situation. It's something that we continue to be intentional about, not just last year, this current year, and then years beyond. Now, this is baseline data, really just showing the work around what we did for our students and our staff. And so from our spring results, our student sense of belonging was 77%. Now, what you'll notice is that was at the 90th percentile nationally, which was good. We were really excited for that piece of data. Not great. We still recognize that there is some improvement. Oh, thanks, Dr. Devitt. But this was another data point that really helped shape that first goal. And last spring, we gave all of our staff this instructional survey to find out where collaboration lies. And so you'll see up here that the question our staff had was having regular times to meet with other teachers to discuss effective instructional practices. So last year, our sense of belonging was there and collaboration was good, but as you can see the response, it wasn't great. We didn't have people agree or disagree. So collaboration was good, but it wasn't there yet. And so that's where this sense of the collaboration piece comes into goal number one. Now, one thing we wanted to highlight for you is these strategies to achieve that first goal for both belonging and collaboration. And there's three impact strategies with regards to those spheres that Dr. Devitt spoke to. So the first one is for our students creating student leadership groups. Our second, as it pertains to staff, is having teacher learning through embedded collaboration time. And then lastly, for our community, we wanted to build on our New to Ladue initiatives that we started last year. So let's get a little more specific, kind of drive down a little bit deeper. So when it came to our students, we started student leadership for the very first time last year. We only had one leadership group. We had 30 to 40 kids involved with it. And we were excited about the work that came out of it, but as our committee and our school noticed, we wanted a broader representation. How can we get more kids involved? We recognize that sense of belonging for our kids, and having a voice was going to help change the culture for our school and get more kids wanting to be part. And so this year, our character education committee, we ended up rewriting our mission and putting a lens through student voice. We came up with 6 different leadership groups, all led by staff members. I only want to highlight just one in particular right now. It's that Ambassador one. And it's the work we started last year, but this work helps push forward our character and kindness initiatives. It's aligned with our district No Place for Hate work. Last year, once we started this, we ended up getting through character.org a promising practice. And I bring that up because part of our multi-year goal is to get Conway to be a national school of character. So it really put a broad lens on how can we get more student voice in the matter. So switching gears after students, our emphasis for staff was taking the work we did to build that strong sense of culture, but how to, as Dr. Devitt mentioned before, how can we leverage that into strong relationships where we're not just getting along well, but really being intentional about the conversations we're having collaboratively around instructional practices. So up here, one thing you'll notice that we did this year was having classroom teachers go visit other classroom teachers. And this seems so simple on the surface, and while we can talk about strong instructional practices, it's different to actually go in those classes. So we created systems and structures to allow our staff during the day to go see live teaching happening at all grade levels. They then were able to take note of some of these exemplary instructional practices, bring back in their PLCs and talk about how can we steal those ideas and then make it a broader lens to touch upon the kids at our primary grades and our intermediate grades. The second point up there about staff-led professional learning was awesome to see too. What we ended up having was Conway teachers created staff development for other Conway teachers, and they led that work on PD days, on a PD day. We had 6 different sessions that were offered by our staff. It brought in our classroom teachers, our special area teachers, and our SSD to be able to choose what session offered by our Conway staff they'd like to attend. And then they were able to take those practices back to their own learning spaces. So we really tried to individualize that PD for all those different groups presented. Last, this work really is a big shout out to Liz Lohman and our whole CSA, because this was something that they've been, they started this work, and they're really the ones on the front lines that are doing so much of this amazing work. We wanted to double down on that initiative. And the reason, when we looked at our data and we disaggregated it, we noticed that students that were new to Ladue needed a little more time for that adjustment period, for expectations, for the rigor of the academics. So how can we reach out and have our kids feel a sense of belonging, feel connected to the community? So a couple of these things were mentioned last year in our presentation, but two things I want to highlight. One is establishing Conway mentor families for those families new to our school. And then the second was that Dr. Devitt and our CSA made phone calls those first few weeks and months of the school year, reaching out to those families. How are your kids doing? Any support we can do, any questions you might have to really help bring them in and feel that much closer to the community.
So that's the reason we chose this goal, and that's also the strategy. So we want to share the outcome for where we are so far as a benchmark. So here are the benchmarks measured by Panorama from the time last year to today to see the percent increase in the metrics that relate to sense of belonging, culture, and climate. Those three metrics. And what you'll see in terms of growth, it's pretty substantial for all of those metrics, the amount that our school has grown when measured by what staff is saying about how they feel like they belong, what our parents are saying when they say, does this feel like Conway is the right school for my child? The growth is substantial. The other thing I want to identify is that the achievement for where we actually are nationally for this is also pretty amazing. When you look at it for staff sense of belonging, we're in the 90th percentile compared to all elementary schools that are similar to ours across the country. For our climate that our staff reports, we're in the 99th percentile nationally. For our families reporting what the climate of our school feels like, we're in the 99th percentile nationally. And when we look at, does Conway, is this the right fit for your family? Again, we're in the 99th percentile nationally. And this is a testament to the work of our staff, of our parents, of our community to make this a place where people really love to be. And you can feel that. You can see it on a graph, but when you walk into Conway, you can feel it. And that's how all of our students feel. That's how all of our staff feels. That's how our parents feel when they're a part of Conway. And most importantly, this is used, we want the adults to feel like they belong because that matters, but it matters so much more when it translates to students feeling like belong. So our students responded 74% favorably, which again relates to the 99th percentile for all schools across the country that are similar elementary schools for how our students feel like they belong at Conway. So again, we leverage that for, one more point. We did a lot of work with our new to Ladue students. That purple line, that represents responses from our students who transferred in and were new to Ladue. So not only are all of our students saying like they belong, but if you're new to Ladue, you actually feel like you belong more thanks to all the outreach work of all of our groups here. In regards to the collaboration, remember, we start with that sense of belonging and leverage that for collaboration. So this longitudinally shows how the feedback and coaching has improved at Conway over the years. You'll see a steep increase with two kind of peaks that I want to identify. The first being about a year and a half ago, and I attribute this to the decision of the board to hire full-time assistant principals at all the elementary schools, and the charge from Dr. Whipke to us principals saying it's now your responsibility to be the instructional leaders of your building. And when that happened, we saw a spike in how our staff was saying they're getting feedback and how much they feel like they're getting coached and improving. The second spike we attributed to what Dr. Hatfield was talking about, where we're having teachers help each other, where we're creating embedded systems where teachers are getting into each other's classrooms, noticing best practices, sharing those, stealing those, spreading those. When our teachers are put in the driver's seat for giving that feedback and that coaching, we're seeing that the respect that they have for each other, deservedly so, they love learning from each other. So by distributing that role, it's had a substantial increase on the feedback and coaching. When we look at it in regards to that staff professional learning, that element of collaboration, we also see some really nice numbers, and I attribute this to Dr. Crabtree's work because this result of that 99th percentile is not a Conway-specific number. If you look at the district trend, this is across the district that we're seeing this substantial increase. And again, this is because of the work that Dr. Hadfield alluded to of putting teachers in the driver's seat of selecting the learning they want to be a part of, then leading those professional sessions. And when you do that, we're seeing that teachers are feeling like they're really having the chance to be developed. So our next steps for goal number 1, we have 2. The first is to more closely align the collaboration that we are doing to align with our instructional framework, and that's goal 3 that we'll tie into in just a moment. But that's that common playbook, and that gives that continuity across. The second is to build on the strong momentum that we have with our SSD partner district. Dr. Davidovitz has done a transformative job of making sure that we feel like one unified front. We have a dynamic SSD staff special department at Conway. We are so pleased with the collaboration that we've started to have, and our next steps are going to be to continue that. Amazing. And our next steps are going to be to strengthen that, where it's not you're a Ladue employee or you're an SSD employee. No, you are a Conway employee. We are all here together in the same building, and that's what we're really trying to develop moving forward as our next step.
So now I'm shifting gears and looking at our second goal. It was about student engagement all around learning. And this was a point of baseline data, again, coming from the spring. Engagement was at that 49% favorable. And so it meant that there was engagement happening in all of our classrooms, but we recognized this was an opportunity for growth, that we could continue to build on some of the good work that's been happening. So our most impactful strategy to achieve this goal was being very intentional on the PLC work that's taking place every week within our grade levels. That way we're meeting the needs of every single student. So as our staff comes together, they're the ones that all this work and all the growth and all the achievement we're seeing comes from, because our data teams had outstanding conversations about student work. Where were the gaps, being mindful of what skill deficits kids had, what needs still needed to be met, whether they were performing at grade level, whether they were performing above or below. And then they came up with flexible, fluid student groups and grow time, being able to shift those kids around to meet the needs of their kids. When it comes to student engagement, one thing I want you to notice is our goal was that we started our baseline at 49%. We set a goal to arrive, I'm bouncing around here, there we go. We set a goal at the beginning of the year to be at that 55%. This fall, we ended up doing our panorama data and found out that we're at 56% for student engagement. So we've actually met it in the fall, and it gives us that momentum to continue to build on what we've already started.
So looking at the outcomes that we have from a different lens for student engagement, because we know if we have engaged students that the academic achievement outcomes as well as the growth should and will follow. And that's what we're seeing by our iReady data from the fall to winter benchmark. So the left side represents math and reading growth data. And again, where should we be by the winter benchmark is at that 50 percentile, right? Because we're halfway through the year, so we should be 50% of the way there. So in both math and reading, we exceeded that target as our median score. The right side with all the colors represents our achievement data. And so when you look at that, all of the areas that you want increasing, those dark green and that lighter green color, representing students who are early on grade level or at or above grade level, are significantly increasing. And maybe more importantly, the areas that we want shrinking of students who are not yet on grade level or 2 or more grade levels below, those numbers are also shrinking for both math and for reading. So our next steps to keep improving in the domain of student engagement. First, we need to continue to further personalize instruction for our Conway students. We have that deep belief that each and every student at Conway can and will grow, and the way that we do that is by knowing each child as a student, as a person, and as a learner. And the more that we can do that, and the more we can look at data to inform our instruction, the more that's going to happen. The second next step that we have for student engagement is to codify those best instructional practices that we have going on all throughout Conway that we're learning from each other, and create a common playbook of this is what excellence looks like. This is how you engage students at Conway, as our best teachers are doing, using those best instructional practices.
So that actually brings us to our third goal. We wanted to create a shared instructional framework. Now, this was a baseline data point for why and how we arrived at that. When you look up here, you'll see that as our staff filled out this survey about whether they could describe our school's predominant instructional practices, the answer was no, not really. So we recognized we had a need for common language. And We did some work over the summer with Cabinet during our retreat and through the C&I department. All the work that's been going on with Marzano's high reliability schools, one big piece of that comes down to the new art and science of teaching. And this graphic shows 42 elements, and you're looking at like, that's a lot. And the answer is, you're right, it is. And it's a lot to take a bite out of. These are all tremendous practices we want to have with our kids, but it's too much put on a teacher to be able to say, I'm gonna make sure every lesson encompasses all of these. So what we ended up coming up with was an instructional leadership team who engaged in a book study after school hours. And through that book study, they read about each of these strategies, and we had great conversation all about how can we pair these 42 elements into a workable 10 or 12 that we as a Conway staff all agree are the most impactful for our students and our needs. And so this work is still ongoing. We're not there yet, but we hope to be there by the end of the school year and be able to embed this, as Dr. Devitt's going to tell you, where the work of this shared framework goes in some of our next steps too.
Yeah, and so the goal is to embed this in Conway's DNA. Everything that we do instructionally will be connected to this framework. And the reason why that will be successful, we predict, is because it's been created the entire way in collaboration with our staff. This was not our district coming down and telling us this is what you should value. This was not Dr. Hadfield and I saying this is what good teaching is. All along the way through several iteration processes, it included our entire staff representative of all different domains and areas. And so our goal then is going to be to embed this in everything we do, to bake it into our DNA. So when we have teachers create their goals, it'll be related to our framework. When we do evaluations and feedback and PLCs, when we lead professional developments, all of this is going to connect to Conway's instructional framework. And one celebration, we earned the Missouri Gold Star Award this year, which was so fun. Which was so fun to get to go down to Tantera to receive this. We got to bring 11 staff members. Dr. Whipke came, Liz Lohman, our CSA president, came. And it was great to be able to receive this, celebrate, and then come back and share with all of our staff and all of our families and our students as well. Because like I said, this is a collective honor that takes so many people in order to achieve. But we're really proud to have earned that. What questions do you all have for us?
Okay, this is wonderfully impressive. So congratulations, congrats on the award. But I love the approach you got, and you're right. A 42-point anything is just too much. I imagine the macaroon I had at I didn't wait like everyone else did. It feels like that probably has 42 steps, but so it's certainly out of my league. But it's amazing in how you took kind of like the theoretical and you really made it practical. And one thing that really stood out, because I love this, is Dr. Hadfield, as you said, steal those ideas. As you were talking about teachers observing other teachers, like, you know, when it's for the sake of the kids, there is no plagiarism. Like, take whatever best ideas you can and take them from your peers, take them from wherever, from the instructional coaching that's now further facilitated. And so I guess where I'm coming from, and maybe this is more a question for Dr. Crabtree, is with some of the innovative approaches that they've taken, what is kind of the easiest way, rather than sharing the whole deck and saying, hey, take advantage, to kind of package and promote the initiatives that Conway has kind of, I guess, institutionalized within their building to say, hey, we want you to go do this, so it can benefit even within the elementary schools, but what lessons can throughout our district they take advantage of, and even, you know, hey, this is the kind of work that's taking place at Ladue. It can certainly benefit kids beyond our district, but I love this approach that, hey, kind of, you know, nothing is sacred in terms of like, no, this is mine, it stays in my classroom, I came up with it, Robert can't have it. Like, absolutely not. Everyone can benefit from everyone's best ideas.
Yeah, I give huge kudos to our building leaders. Our K-5 building leaders have worked so closely together over the last couple of years. They are a really strong team, and they actually are the ones that came together and said, we would like to make the high reliability schools a focus. The 5 of them, with their assistant principals, led professional development for the entire elementary staff. And so, instructional learning walks are something that all 4 elementaries are doing. So we see a lot of these ideas being shared across buildings. They, share with each other the goals that they're doing, the data. They have just been an unbelievable support. And so again, it's the dream where we kind of set the vision for the district, but then each of them is able to take this and then decide what direction they want for their buildings, because they all do have, slightly different populations, but the ability to have their staff engaged, our teacher leaders have stepped up in an unbelievable way this year, and I think that's where we're seeing such great success is because the building leaders are the ones helping. February 13th, we had teacher leaders. Our elementary curriculum coordinator was out for medical leave. It was our building principals and our teacher leaders that stepped up and led professional development for the entire K-4 staff. And I think it's being received so much better because they're learning from their colleagues. It's teachers that are in the classroom doing the work every day and then saying like, hey, let's do this thing, and it's being so much better received. So I feel like we're on a really great path, and because of the collaboration that they've all worked with, we're very excited about Dr. Hadfield and FGC. Dr. Wilson has done an incredible job. Those are huge shoes to fill, but obviously working very closely with the team, he'll be able to step into that FGC position and continue the work.
Hey, Layla, can I just add one more thing that is relevant to what Peter had asked? When we have our principals meetings, the elementary principals usually stay after the meeting is over, and that's their collaboration time where they are really sharing, and what we like to say is they're grabbing greatness from one another. But one point that I'll just highlight that Layla did mention is it's differentiated towards their needs, right? So they're picking and choosing what can we utilize that fits our culture and climate.
No, thank you.
Doc, thank you. This is the second time you presented to us, at least during my tenure with you. And again, I appreciate what you've shared, what you brought. And I think your staff shared as well what you brought to the community of Conway. I think to the point of Dr. Whipke and Peter, none of this can be anecdotal. And so I think it's nice for folks to pick what they might apply to their kids, but I think the work that you all are doing and that you're leading is the right work that should be occurring in all buildings. And I mean all buildings pre-K-12, not just our elementary buildings. And not when I say just, I mean not just those grades. So I appreciate the work you're doing. I also think, and this is just a guess, your tenure prior to coming here was in a space where all staff were your staff. And so I appreciate you acknowledging that the special educators are just part of the staff. I think there's that feeling generally in Ladue, sometimes in St. Louis County, but your tenure in another space where you were responsible for making sure all staff felt welcomed and appreciated, seen, valued, and held to high standards is clearly occurring at Conway. So I appreciate that work as well. I guess my only query, and I think you're doing this, is what do you see as the growth points for the students who are having the most struggles in making the growth points of the majority of your students? What do you see as your focal point? I think I heard some of it in here, but I thought I'd ask you the question.
Yeah, I think the focal point is really trying to, like I said, is the action step to really personalize for all of our kiddos. We're starting to get the right data points. We started last year just using iReady, and my staff was so sick of me saying iReady, because there's so many assessments we can use, right? There's classroom assessments, there's exit slips, there's teacher expertise. And so we've started doing a much better job, thanks to their feedback, of incorporating so much more information in our PLCs so that then we know each and every kid individually. And we incorporate also like the SABRS data that our counselors help. We incorporate panoramas. So we really try and get a full picture of the child. And once we do that, then we can differentiate our practice to meet the needs of those students.
These are my favorite days. I love seeing everyone here for Ms. Ward and all these great kids. You have really built an amazing community. It seems really strong and connected. So just thank you for your presentation. Thank you for your work. Keisha, you have a question?
I don't necessarily have a question. I just wanted to say kudos to you. I think what you've done with goal number 1 and partnering with your parent association to increase the sense of belonging is something that should have happened years ago. I wish it would have been in place when I entered the district, because I entered the district at Conway, and there was not a sense of belonging for me or my daughter. So I think what the Parent Association has been able to do in aligning their goals with the goals of the district, and making a true strategic plan for the building is something that is really out of the box, and really deserves a lot of praise, because it is hard to enter into Ladue, especially into certain elementary schools, especially depending upon where you come from and what, if you're coming from out of state or you're coming from other districts in the region. It is hard to assimilate to what is happening in the building, and to have that partnership with parents along with your staff, to make your students and families feel like they belong is something that really is well-deserved praise.
And just to piggyback on what Keisha said, I would add that I've had the opportunity to hear Liz present about the CSA and the work that's been done in partnership with the administration several times. And I do hope that other schools are stealing that, borrowing the greatness, stealing the greatness, grabbing the greatness, whatever the right way is to say that, because I do think that is something that sets you apart, not only from maybe other buildings in Ladue, but I think probably other buildings across the region.
I think it's a large reason, Marissa, why you see that last picture and you see that gold star, which, if they still did blue ribbon, it was a slam dunk that Conway was going to get a blue ribbon as well. That coincides with the gold star. And so I think that's important that the community knows that. But I think that's a huge reason why they got the gold stars, because of the work in connection with the CSA. And the alignment that you guys have done, and then including that alignment, not from the district all the way down through your all's goals, your building's goals, your teachers' goals, but then to have CSA look at that and then pop goals themselves is just masterful. It's a great job.
Thank you all.
Okay, and last but certainly not least, Dr. Macy and Mr. Noonan. More Conway greatness.
And CSA collaboration.
And CSA collaboration, exactly.
All right, good evening, everyone, and we are continuing the theme of Conway. So what we have tonight is we have a proposal to look at changing the playing surface at Conway Elementary School. We talked as a board and administration at our summer retreat last year, and we actually began this conversation formally 2 years ago with the Facilities and Finance Committee, but I think informally several years prior to that. So just throughout my tenure of 5 years, I think we've redone that playing surface twice, based off of the success of our partnership and our community education. We've increased the use exponentially in a small area that just has significant traffic and compaction. I know we lost a field day a couple years ago, which was challenging, and we've tried to coordinate opportunities and spaces with the high school when we could, but we do believe that we're at a point where we need a better solution. Mike Noonan and his team has worked incessantly on that field for years. We do appreciate that, but he has directed his efforts over the last year at putting together specs and tabulating a bid for a playing surface that's suitable for elementary play, as well as some of that community usage space. We know that we don't want a turf that has the fill that's going to be tracked in and out of the building, that's going to create excessive heat. We do know that a playing surface could attract some additional heat, but Mike has worked to identify a space that has a different type of fill that is actually attached to the fibers of the grass, which will help control some of that temperature and reduce that mess. We did receive 2 qualified bids. The current bids are Byrne & Jones, $835,000, Vision Corporation, $882,000. As President Rosen alluded, the relationship with the CSA. We also started talking to the CSA at least a year ago, maybe longer. They have been talking about committing some funds because they also recognize the need for us to come up with a better solution. So the commitment through the CSA is $75,000. We will bring this to the board at the next board meeting and seek approval. I will tell you that Mike is very cognizant of all the work he's done in the district, and $835,000 is the current bid, but we do believe that we have some opportunity there. That does include a significant allowance for some unsuitable soils and some unforeseen conditions. So we are planning cautiously and aiming high with the intent to outperform that number.
I have two questions unrelated to the monetary amount of the bids. Do you know the dimensions-ish off the top of your head of the new surface-ish, Mike or Mr. Noonan? You can get back to me on that. Okay, and then is 150 by 1? That's pretty big.
But it's not a traditional square, so it's going to be kind of in that footprint, correct?
So, and I haven't been back there to play in a while. Do you think the turf can be? Have you thought about a fence? Have we thought about a fence only because like the dog walking and stuff in the neighborhood? I know a lot of people. I just think that can cause maybe more issues. Like most of our turfs have some sort of a fence-ish, not the one at the FGC, but you got to go all the way down there for that middle turf. I don't know, just throw it out there. I feel like you can end up with people walking and throwing dogs, and you'll end up with a lot of dog waste or like tearing it up. Just a thought.
Yep, nope, something we'll have to look into for sure.
But would that go into I'm saying you need the bid? Because I actually looked at my own house. Those are very expensive. I'm not getting one.
Wait, turf or a fence?
A fence, a new fence. I'm not getting it because it's so expensive. But I don't know, maybe that's just not. Do we need, I don't know, throw it in, maybe not.
We have portions that are fenced, and we would look at access points and where we would get that foot traffic, but it's something we can look into for sure.
Okay, all right.
I actually had a question. A few parents have had the courtesy of sending me some articles expressing concern about artificial turf and the potential presence of something called forever chemicals in them. So to the extent that we have a choice over what the composition of the turf is, I was curious about whether we had the opportunity to learn more about this potential concern, or if, that decision has already been made based on other factors. But I thought I would ask about it. More than one parent has asked me, what are we doing about this? Kids are, they're going to grind their faces into this turf, and they're going to be in close proximity to it all the time. And I confess to not being an expert, but also it seems to be a concern that's coming up a little bit more. And I know we're also talking about installing more artificial turf fields in our district. So I just want to throw that out there as something to take into consideration.
No, I appreciate that, and I am not familiar with forever chemicals. Mike, I don't know where you. Yeah.
This turf system doesn't have the rubber infill, which is a lot of the toxic concerns people have talked about. And it uses sand as a ballast and a base. But one of the specifications, they do say that there are non-toxic components. So that's right on top. It's a sports turf, pure play 80, made for playgrounds for kids like this. A little less competitive.
Thank you.
I had a quick question. I know that area has had a lot of wetness. It's like a wetland almost back there. Will that deteriorate the turf? I mean, I know that the turf is going on top, but what about the base soil that's underneath?
So that'll all be part of the warranty and the contract to ensure that we have that sub-base and grading correct. What's happened is over time, we've tried to regrade and grade and plant, and there is just tremendous shade back there based off of the maturity of the trees, that you minimize the sun, you lose the grass, the water sits, the grade changes. So we will work through all of that, but the grading should drastically improve with that base of the turf where we can push that water then to the water management.
Okay, thank you.
And the other thing I want to say too about the rubber pellets, there are so many different turfs out there now, and this is something that has become more and more prevalent across the country based off of of students participating and just that high need. So this does come with a shock pad as well. So sometimes, you know, back when turf first came out, we said the rubber pellets were the cushioning to make sure that the athletes are protected. This is actually going to have a shock pad underneath it in order to help support those falls and just, you know, play.
I just want to also thank Mike Noonan. You know, 7 years ago, I can remember walking back on that Conway field and calling you and saying, we have to do something. And we put time, energy, money, and at the start of the year, that looked like a carpet. It was so nice. By the end of the year, it was a dust bowl without anything. So I know that you've spent a ton of money, ton of time, ton of your resources to get that field up to par. Unfortunately, it's got too much foot traffic. So thank you, Mike.
I just wanted to point out real quick and just kind of a hat tip to the CSA because it came up in the presentation how that partnership has been so valuable, particularly with Goal 1 and helping families acclimate, but also the leadership of the CSA to raise and direct those funds to this project because I remember hearing about this a few years ago and it really caught my attention that, wow, this parent association, they weren't just saying we need this, it was we have raised tens of thousands of dollars because it's so important to the school. And I'm sure there were a lot of parents who raised money who aren't in that school anymore. And so, you know, who've moved on. So I just want to commend the partnership there because, you know, I don't know that this would have moved at the same speed if it weren't for their advocacy and their contribution.
I agree. Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing as we have come to the end of our agenda, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting at 7:14 p.m.?
So moved.
Thank you, Pablo. Keisha, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.